The glow from the phone lit up the bedroom like a flare in a cave. I was lying on my side, wrapped in the old quilt his mother gave us, when her message came through, just 2 lines that ended everything. Stay away. I need space. Nothing else. No explanation, no punctuation, not even my name. Just that. I sat up slowly, the springs creaking beneath me like they always did when he used to leave for early meetings. But this time, he wasn't the one disappearing. The room was so quiet, I could hear the hum of the neighbor's porch light through the window. I stared at that screen for a long moment, thumb hovering, heart tight. Then the bubble popped up with his reply. Just 4 words. Don't come back. I felt my throat close before my chest did. 10 minutes later, he hadn't answered a single one of my calls. Not the first 5, not the 10 after. By the 20th, I was pacing the hallway barefoot, the tiles freezing against my skin, phone screen still glowing like a verdict. If you're still listening and any of this feels uncomfortably familiar, hit like and subscribe. Most people just listen in silence, but that one click tells the team these stories matter. I don't know what I expected. Maybe for him to ask what I meant, to fight me on it, to say something, anything that would make my message feel less final. But the silence wasn't anger. It was colder than that. It felt like stone, like he'd been waiting for that exact moment, like he already knew it was coming. That was the part that unsettled me most. It wasn't grief. It was relief. I walked into the kitchen needing something, water, distraction, clarity. I didn't know. The wall clock read 12:47 a.m. The fridge light cut across the tile floor like a searchlight. I opened it, staring at nothing. An open jar of olives, half a lemon, 1 last bottle of Chardonnay. I grabbed the wine, didn't bother with a glass. Took a sip, leaned against the counter, and thought about what I'd done. I told him to stay away because I wanted control. Space, power, whatever word made it feel less cruel. But when he said, "Don't come back," it landed differently. It sounded like a door locking, not slamming, not breaking, just locking. Quietly. Deliberately. The worst part? A week ago, I'd seen him hunched at his desk late at night, eyes red from screen glare, spreadsheets open, contracts pulled up. I mocked it. Working on that dumb patent again? I had said it with a laugh. I thought I was teasing. He smiled without looking up. Now I know that was a different kind of smile. Not amused. Just done. I stared at my phone again. No new messages. 20 missed calls stared back like a mirror. I scrolled through them, tapped his name once, let it ring. Voicemail. Again. Nothing. That's when I knew. This wasn't space. This wasn't a pause. I'd just started something I couldn't control, and he'd already finished it. 6 months earlier, I was in the laundry room folding towels when I heard the sound of her voice echoing down the hallway. It was late, close to midnight, and she thought I was asleep. The door to her office wasn't fully closed, just cracked enough for her words to slip through like smoke. At first, it was laughter, light, carefree, the way she used to sound with me before things got heavy. Then came the line that stopped my hands mid-fold. "He's still working on that dumb patent," she said, and laughed again. "Like anyone wants that thing." I stood still, holding a warm hand towel, heart suddenly thudding in my ears. The other voice, muffled, male, replied with something I couldn't make out. Her answer came through sharp and casual. "Let him chase it, makes him feel useful." The rest of the conversation faded into static. My fingers closed slowly around the towel until it was twisted in my fist. I didn't open the door. I didn't say a word. I just backed away, quietly, and turned off the hallway light behind me. That was the night I stopped being confused. Hurt, yes, but clear. I didn't yell. I didn't accuse. I watched, and then I began to move. The next morning, while she poured oat milk into her coffee and scrolled through her phone like nothing had changed, I drafted an email to a legal architect I trusted from an old project. Subject line, urgent structuring inquiry. Within the week, I'd formed a holding entity in the Cayman Islands under a discreet designation. Not flashy, not obvious, just clean. The patent, the dumb one she mocked, was reassigned, legally, silently. The technology had never mattered to her, but to the market? It was quietly gaining traction. I buried it in clean paperwork so deep she'd need a mining team to find it. While she planned spa weekends and brunches with friends, I met with the state council, moved key assets, family property, retirement funds, residual royalties, into an irrevocable trust. I named my sister as successor trustee and secondary guardian, not her. She'd never even asked to be included. One afternoon, I watched her swipe through vacation rentals on her tablet, comparing beach views while I pretended to read beside her. "Can you believe how expensive these are?" she said, not looking up. "We'll just expense half of it to your patent project." I nodded, but inside, I was already gone. She didn't know she was expensing dreams from a house she no longer owned. I memorized the silence between us, the way she smiled at texts that weren't from me, the way she changed her lock screen photo 3 times in 1 month, from us to just her to a filtered beach shot I hadn't been on. She never saw my eyes watching from the reflection in the microwave door. Every move I made was quiet, deliberate, legal. There was no confrontation, no meltdown, just distance measured in documents and folders and notarized signatures. She laughed that night on the phone like nothing mattered. She was wrong, everything mattered, and I was making sure of it. She didn't leave with a fight. She left with a smile. Friday morning, I watched her toss a weekender bag into the back of her car like it was the start of some glamorous solo movie. New yoga mat strapped to the side, white sandals, oversized sunglasses she only wore when she wanted to be seen. She kissed the air beside my cheek and said, "Don't wait up. I might stay 2 nights." I nodded. She didn't notice I never asked where. By noon, her first post went up. Feet by the edge of a pool, drink in hand, a single caption glowing in white font across her tanned legs. "Freedom feels good." The filter was heavy. The smile wasn't. I didn't react, didn't like it, didn't ask how she was. I let the silence work. That night, while she drank wine by the fire pit with strangers in white robes, I met with my compliance attorney at a hotel downtown. Quiet lobby, neutral territory, no paper trails beyond what we'd already arranged. By then, the post-nup was finalized, filed, stamped, notarized, a clean amendment outlining separation of intellectual property, marital assets, future royalties, and capital gains exclusions in the event of dissolution. We'd drawn the lines a year ago when she first started suggesting taking space as a lifestyle, not a phase. She signed it then, skimming every line with a distracted smile. Now those lines were law. Back at the spa, she went to dinner with her sister. The 2 of them ordered mocktails, laughed loud enough for the patio to hear. According to her sister's social post, she said something like, "He'll beg, I'm just letting him stew. Men don't know how to handle quiet. They clink glasses, blurry and filtered." The next morning, a friend of hers commented, "Clean him out, girl. Early retirement vibes." She replied with a row of laughing emojis. She thought this was the preview to her freedom montage, that I was pacing the kitchen, spiraling. She didn't realize the architecture of her safety net had already been pulled apart, thread by thread, by her own hand, when she mocked the very thing that funded it. The holding trust was sealed. The IP protection was bulletproof. Every licensing pathway she thought she'd touch was routed through jurisdictions she'd never even spell right. I watched her story that afternoon. Champagne brunch, a robe on the balcony, a selfie with the text, "One door closes," and a wink emoji. Yes, one door did close, but not the one she thought. The envelope came thick, self-important, sealed in embossed stationery like it was supposed to intimidate. "Request for voluntary disclosure of all marital assets," it read across the top with her name centered just above her attorney's signature. Language stuffed with passive aggression, words like amicable, transparent, and expedited resolution, as if this was a favor I'd be lucky to participate in. She thought it would be simple. She'd get her list. We'd haggle over numbers, maybe go through mediation, and she'd walk away with what she thought she was owed. That was the fantasy her friends sold her, wrapped in mimosa brunches and half-baked legal podcasts. What she didn't expect was that the paperwork she was so ready to weaponize would already be neutralized. My attorney sent the reply the next morning. Certified, tracked, signature required. It arrived in a slim manila envelope. 1 single page inside, no fluff, no stall tactics, Just a short declarative paragraph that read, "Subject patent and associated derivative rights are held exclusively by a predated entity governed by foreign trust law. Said entity, fully compliant with international filings, maintains independent fiduciary oversight. Marital asset claims are neither applicable nor enforceable under the existing trust structure." Her lawyer blinked as he read it across the mediation table. Not out of confusion, out of recognition. He'd seen this type of wall before. Ironclad, clean, unemotional. He turned it over as if something might be hidden on the back. "Is this it?" he asked. My attorney nodded once. Calm, confident. "That's all there is." Her lawyer leaned back, brow pinched. "Where's the rest of the disclosures? Accounts, investments, options, joint holdings?" My side stayed silent for a beat. Then, "There is no rest." I watched her face flicker for the first time. A tiny crack behind the usual mask, one she didn't expect to form this early. She thought this would drag, that I'd flinch, that I'd fold, but this wasn't my first negotiation, it was hers. The silence that followed did more damage than shouting ever could. She glanced at the page again. No loopholes, no attached schedules, just one sentence that rewrote everything she thought she was entitled to. Across the table, my lawyer pulled out a second envelope. Her signed post-nup notarized a year ago. Her signature smooth and confident next to a date that predated every move she was about to attempt. "You signed it," I said quietly, for the first and only time that day, and I honored it. She didn't respond. She didn't need to. In that room, filled with neutral walls and filtered sunlight and half-sipped coffee, the board reset itself. She had thought she'd show up to play, but I'd already played, and won, not with noise, not with emotion, just one line, one move, and now she was playing a game that no longer existed. It started with a pause, not panic, yet, just the hesitation of a woman used to everything working. She clicked twice on her phone, tried the app again, then opened her laptop. Password saved, face recognition approved, but the portfolio dashboard? Blank. No charts, no balances. Just a system message, access restricted. Please contact your account administrator. She thought it was a glitch. She thought someone else had made a mistake, so she called her financial advisor, the one she used to flirt with over Zoom during lockdown. The same man who once said, "If you ever leave him, I'll triple your yield." That guy. "Why can't I access the investment portal?" she asked, trying to sound calm. She never did panic first, not in front of people who mattered. He didn't answer immediately. Then came the email, forwarded without commentary, just a copy of the bank's internal note. Client removed as joint beneficiary per Q2 directive, confirmed by notarized instruction on file, change effective as of May 3rd. That was 2 months before she ever packed her spa bag. She fired off a message to me like a match striking dry bark. "You're unbelievable." I saw it appear on my lock screen while I stood in line at the notary's office for something entirely unrelated. I didn't rush to respond. I let it sit a while. Then I typed, "Everything was disclosed. You didn't read it. No punctuation, just facts." A minute later, she called. I didn't answer, not to be cruel, just to let the silence speak. She called again and again. The screen lit up 6 times in under 10 minutes, each ring a little more frantic. I imagined her pacing, barefoot probably, somewhere between the kitchen island and the couch, phone in hand, voice rising, not because she didn't understand, but because she was starting to. Because for the first time the numbers didn't listen to her voice, because her name had always been there. On the joint accounts, the living trust summaries, the tax projections, not because she earned it, but because I let it stay. She used to say, "It's all ours, we built it together." I never corrected her. Not when she needed the illusion, not even when she joked about early retirement while mocking the project that paid for her Pilates classes and imported skincare. But this time, the mirror didn't flatter her. It showed the part she never wanted to see. Control wasn't slipping. She never had it to begin with. She showed up to brunch in her usual armor, oversized sunglasses, loose cashmere, and that fake laugh energy she wore like perfume when she needed to project ease. The place was packed, all open beams and 18 egg white frittatas. Her group had already ordered mimosas. She sat down and launched into her story, how she needed a break, how she was finally choosing herself, how the marriage had been stifling her potential. They nodded. supportive, sipping through straws. But then her friend Maya asked it, slowly, almost absently, "Wait, didn't you say he was broke?" The table quieted for just a second too long. She blinked. "Well, not broke, just, chasing a fantasy." Maya turned her phone around. A blog post was open. Headline: Medical device startup quietly wins patent race in biotech sector. Under it, a photo of me, older, calmer, in a charcoal blazer I hadn't worn in years. The article called my invention foundational and cited licensing estimates in the seven-figure range. The silence deepened, silverware tapped porcelain. One of the women cleared her throat. Another suddenly checked her phone. The moment passed, but it left a mark. She forced a laugh. "Wow, didn't even know that was public. Good for him, I guess." But her voice cracked on the last word. 2 days later, at yoga, it was worse. People looked up as she entered, then quickly looked away. Not rudely, just long enough to register something had shifted. The instructor, usually chatty, simply nodded. During the last stretch, someone whispered, "I thought she said he lost everything?" Her cheeks flushed deeper than the workout justified. She rolled up her mat early, didn't stay to chat. Then came the club. Her wellness membership bounced, auto debit declined. She got the email in the parking lot and stared at it for a full minute, called the office, left a message. No one called back. That evening she texted my sister, just one line. "Hey, can we talk?" No reply. The next day she tried me. "Can we talk?" I watched the message come in, sat with it for a moment. Then I opened the thread, tapped the top right corner, and hit mute, not block, just silence. Because what she really wanted wasn't a conversation, it was a mirror, and I had already given her the clearest one possible. She walked into the mediation room wearing defiance like a tailored coat, structured, rehearsed, slightly too warm for the setting. Her hair was done, lips painted in that deep declarative red she saved for courtrooms and charity galas. I sat at the far end of the table, still and unreadable. My attorney beside me, sleeves rolled to the elbow, no briefcase, just a slim black folder. She glanced at me once, expecting maybe some flicker of regret. None came. The mediator greeted us, outlined the rules, neutral tone, even lighting, coffee no one touched. Then my attorney slid the folder forward, opened it, and laid down the offer. No claim to the IP, no retroactive spousal support, a one-time modest payout, structured over 2 years, mutual non-disparagement clause, an NDA. She didn't touch the papers, just stared at them, then up at me. "This is a joke," she said, her voice tight. "You really think I'm going to sign away everything?" I met her eyes, calm, still. "It's not a joke, it's a mirror." She blinked. "You mocked the foundation," I said quietly. "Now you can't stand on it." The words hung there, not cruel, not loud, just undeniable. She laughed, but it came out bitter. "You're not the man I married." "I am," I said. "You just stopped looking." Her lawyer leaned in then, eyes on the numbers, scanning the terms. He didn't look thrilled, but he wasn't shocked either. He knew what airtight looked like, and this was that. "You should consider it," he said to her, voice low. "It's cleaner than most." She flinched, only slightly, but it was enough. The veneer cracked. Her hand trembled just a little as she reached for the documents, not to sign, just to read. "Modest payout?" she repeated. "After 10 years?" "After 10 years," I replied, "of you dismissing every late night, every call, every document I drafted, while you called it his little project. That project bought your spa days, paid for your retreats, covered the last round of club dues before your access was revoked. You're punishing me." "No," I said, "I'm offering you closure." The mediator cleared her throat gently. "Let's take a moment," she suggested. We all stood. The room felt colder now. She stepped away, phone in hand, texting someone who wouldn't answer. Her lawyer turned to mine quietly. "You've been preparing this a while, haven't you?" My attorney just smiled, and across the room her posture changed, shoulders rounding slightly, heels shifting against the polished floor. For the first time since this began, She looked small in a room where she once believed size came from volume. It didn't. It came from precision, and precision had already spoken. She thought it would be a swing that shook everything loose. Her new attorney, flashy, aggressive, loud where the last had been cautious, filed a motion to contest the intellectual property holdings, claimed the entity was fraudulent, said the transfer was clearly reactive, that it was a strategic concealment designed to deprive the spouse of fair share. They strutted into court like a storm was coming. I didn't flinch. Neither did my attorney. 15 minutes. That's all it took. The judge barely looked up after reviewing the documents. Filing dates predate dissolution petition by more than a year, he said flatly. Entity is compliant. Offshore jurisdiction secure. Chain of title is unbroken and properly recorded. Motion denied. He didn't even ask for oral argument. Her mouth opened slightly, then closed. She reached for her lawyer's arm as if to ask something, but his eyes were already back on his screen, quietly packing his notes. Outside the courthouse, the sun was brutal. She stepped into it blindly, sunglasses already on, but they couldn't hide the way her body moved, disoriented, heavy, like she was trying to walk underwater. A local reporter was camped nearby, probably hoping for a quote or reaction from a day that promised courtroom drama. When they saw her come out first, alone, they lifted their camera halfway, hesitated, and then slowly lowered it. There was no story in her face, not the one they came for anyway. She opened the door to her rideshare with a shaky hand, climbed into the back seat, tried to catch her breath. The driver looked up through the rear view but said nothing. She stared out the window, silent. Then the dam cracked. Her fingers trembled as she unlocked her phone. She scrolled to the thread. Her so-called friend, the one who used to text late at night with inside jokes, confidence, and fire, the one who said, "You've got this. Make your move. He'll fold." She typed, "What now?" Nothing. "Did you see what happened?" Nothing. "Please answer." The dots never came. She went to her contacts, tapped my name, stared at it, backed out, typed a message, erased it, tried again, erased that too. The car kept moving through downtown traffic, each block a slow crawl through a life she no longer recognized. People walked past on sidewalks, earbuds in, coffee in hand, smiling into the sun. Normal life, untouched by hers. She lowered her phone onto her lap and looked up at the ceiling of the car like she needed air. But there wasn't enough air to cover what she'd just lost. Her strongest strike, the one she saved, the one she thought would undo me, had landed with a hollow thud. And now, she wasn't just losing. She was alone. The pen didn't click. It scraped faintly against the paper, the sound of ink bleeding onto finality. Her signature was smaller than usual, tighter, no flourish, just a name surrendering its weight. She sat back in the chair and stared at it like it might rewrite itself if she waited long enough. It didn't. Across the table, my attorney gathered the pages without commentary, no celebration. Just a final knot tied on a clean exit. The terms were simple and now binding. No public payout, no claim to intellectual property, no stake in the trust. A small, structured exit sum, enough to start again, but not enough to posture with. An airtight NDA. Her attorney offered a last glance, but even he knew there was nothing left to wring out. Every attempt to twist the narrative had snapped back in silence. Every court motion, every late-night call, every whispered strategy had withered against the one thing they couldn't fight, time-stamped preparation. The mediator, neutral as always, cleared her throat gently. "Would either party like to say anything before we conclude?" I nodded. She told me to stay away. I let the words settle. No venom, no triumph. Just a truth placed on the table, unwrapped and unshaking. So, I stayed. The room didn't move for a long beat. She turned toward me then, slowly, like she wanted to speak, maybe explain, maybe soften, maybe grasp for something she hadn't already scorched. I didn't meet her eyes. I looked at the clock instead. 2:17 p.m., a Thursday. Just another hour that passed while life moved forward without her in it. She opened her mouth slightly, then shut it. No more lines to deliver. No more audience left to perform for. We stood. She adjusted her jacket like it might fix the air around her. I walked past without a pause. That evening, I got one last text. No words, just a period. It stayed unread in the preview pane. After that, Nothing, no more pings, no late-night outbursts, no voicemails, just digital silence like a faucet finally turned off. And not because I demanded it, because she had locked the door herself. The morning was clear, cool, the kind of fall air that makes every word spoken feel a little sharper. The courtyard buzzed with quiet anticipation. Faculty, researchers, a few donors, cameras poised, banners gently shifting in the breeze. 6 months to the day. My daughter stood at the center, holding the oversized scissors with both hands, finger steady, smile real. She didn't wear a dress. She wore a navy blazer over jeans, just like I used to when I taught guest seminars here a decade ago. There was a quiet symmetry to it. She didn't try to make a moment out of it. She just lived it. Behind her, mounted on the new stone wall, the plaque gleamed, the Graham Biomedical Innovation Lab, dedicated to research that solves, not sells. People clapped, a few whistled. My daughter sliced the ribbon cleanly. The moderator turned to me. I stepped forward slowly, took the podium without flourish. No speechwriter, no rehearsed theatrics. Just a few lines I thought through on my last walk through the lab when the lights were off and the equipment still waiting for breath. True legacy doesn't ask to be seen, I said. It proves itself useful quietly over time. That was it. Applause came, light and polite, but I wasn't there for noise. I was there to mark something finished. As the crowd mingled, hands shook, cameras clicked, I saw her, back of the courtyard, standing behind a tree that partially obscured her face, no longer in red, no longer performing, just watching, motionless. She didn't step forward. She didn't wave, and I didn't nod. The program moved on. Someone from the university read names from a list of donors. My name came last, but I was already walking down the far corridor, away from the crowd, past glass doors, past recognition, toward a quiet exit I'd mapped days ago. The hallway was empty, cool, lit by skylights that didn't need applause. Behind me, the sound of her presence faded like a chapter that forgot it was already closed. I didn't look back. The new name was on the door, and she wasn't part of it.